What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. I'm your host of today's show, Steve McCutcheon, along with my two co-hosts, Michael Nolan and Vito Anazelli. Please take a moment, hit the bell, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you find your podcast. Also follow us on Twitter at the SL_Screamers_pod. Welcome back, boys. I feel like it's been a while.
Has been a little bit of a while.
A little bit, just a teeny bit.
Just a little bit of a while. A little oxymoron to start your day.
Let's hop right into news and notes. Let's get right into the show. First off, we had Champions League this past week, a couple midweek matches. First off, of the Premier League, yesterday we had Milan 0, Chelsea 2. Basically a 10-man Milan team. Ironically, Fico Tomori was the one that got the red card for Milan. What did you guys take of the Chelsea performance, though, afterwards?
It was good. Definitely more controlled from the team going forward. It seemed like there was more attacking options when players were picking up the ball in space compared to how it seemed like when Tuchel was at the helm. So far, so good for Graham Potter. Obviously, he seems to be liking his changes to tactical formations depending on the opponents, pretty much game in, game out. But definitely a better Chelsea side. Reece James is just a man on fire at the moment. So things are trending the right way for the Blues.
Yeah, they looked really good, and it's to be expected with Potter. When he comes in, he's going to obviously make the tweaks and the changes that he has to. I was a little upset that the game got ruined with the red card. I thought it was a double negative with the red card and the penalty. It's either one or the other for me. So it should have just been a yellow card and a pen, but not ruin the game. But
yeah, I'd agree.
Crying over that.
Fair. Can't really disagree on that one. The shock of the weekend prior for the Prem. Copenhagen 0 or 0, and then City 0. They were down to 10 men. That Riyad Mahrez also missed a penalty earlier before they got the red card. Holland, I don't think actually played in this one either. I think they rested him.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna hurt them by any means, but
no. Look, he's got to get a break eventually, I guess, right? So yeah, I mean, maybe Copenhagen win the Champions League with a performance like that, but definitely a rotated City squad. But you still would have expected them to go out and get the job done. The missed penalties can happen, and it's really not a big deal. I mean, City are all already qualified and all but surefire group winners at this point, so I wouldn't be too concerned with it. If anything, they're probably looking towards the weekend where they have a pretty big match coming up.
Yeah, there's nothing to read into that about.
Yeah.
Copenhagen's at the bottom of that group with 2 points. City's sitting at top at 10. It's all but theirs at this point.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side of the matchup that Vito just mentioned and foreshadowed there, Liverpool won 7-1 over Rangers. Salah had a hat trick. Firmino scored.
Fastest hat trick, I believe, in UCL history. 6 minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Really?
Yep.
Ever. He tore it up.
Yeah.
Well done.
I mean, they very much so needed that given the form Liverpool's been in, coming off the back of a loss to Arsenal last week too. But I mean, that was vintage Liverpool of the last couple of years. Absolute booty jumping them.
Then the last match, Spurs 3, Frankfurt 2. Son had a brace, and I think a Harry Kane penalty, if I'm not mistaken, was the other one.
Yep. Son had a brace. He hit a banger of a second goal for a volley with his left foot near like the top of the 18. Spurs kind of should have put this away a lot earlier. It was 3-1. Frankfurt got a red card, but they kind of just held on and they didn't take their chances, and it made it look a lot closer than it really was. But it was a good win to get control back in the group. So
especially when you consider, I think Kane missed a penalty towards the end there. No,
he missed a penalty and he had a chance to pretty much get another assist, and he just totally whiffed the cross. So
nice. A lot of red cards this past week for the Champions League. Quite a few.
Yeah. What was fun about today as in Wednesday when we're recording, there was more goals scored in the first half of the matches today than the entirety of the matches the day prior. Like today,
really?
It was just, they were just shipping in goals left and right all day today.
So far, I mean, thinking of the Champions League, not even just the Premier League teams in it, but what have kind of been the biggest surprises for you guys? Where have you seen teams excel or not excel just overall in the competition now that we're pretty much 3/4 of the way through the group standings or the group stage?
For me, it'd be Napoli, just because of how many players they lost this past summer, and then they're still tearing it up. I mean, you lose. Was it Mertens, Koulibaly, drawing a blank off the top of my head, but it was about 4 or 5 legit players, and they brought in a few guys. I don't think they were they weren't household names by any means, probably up and coming players, and just turned out to hit on pretty much every transfer.
Yeah, they are definitely, I mean, one of the only 4-0 teams at this point in the tournament. For me, I think it's clear and obvious that Club Brugge is just completely outperforming and outplaying. Granted, Atletico Madrid in that group are playing well under their caliber, but I mean, you're talking about a group that's comprised of Porto, Atletico Madrid, and Leverkusen, who are none of which are slouches, and they're going out and they're getting the job done week over week when most people probably wrote them off to finish in 4th place. So definitely the surprise team of the tournament. We'll see how long the momentum lasts, though.
Yeah, I think this is the first time they, in particular, have ever qualified for the round of 16 too, which is pretty amazing.
Really?
Pretty amazing for them.
I do know it's the first time ever they won 3 games in a row in the Champions League. So that in and of itself was an accomplishment, but I didn't know this is their first time qualifying. I mean, no disrespect to Club Brugge, but I mean, I'm not entirely surprised by that.
Yeah. They've looked, both of those teams, into Napoli too. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. It's like Kabarshelia or whatever his name is.
Yeah. wasn't even giving it a try.
At some point in time, if anybody hasn't watched them play, watch him in particular. If you have a Napoli game on, that kid is an absolute animal. He's the real deal. He is the real deal.
They're on a pretty big streak in the league, though, too, aren't they? If I'm not mistaken.
Top of
the
Serie
league.
A. Yeah, they're tearing it up.
Them.
And Juve, speaking of Serie A, on a side note, good God, they're doing terribly. I'm surprised they haven't fired Allegri yet.
Yeah, nothing's gone right for them this year.
Isn't he like locked into like a big contract though, or am I mistaken?
It's like a huge.
Somehow they afforded that, but who knows?
Yeah.
How'd they afford that?
It would cost more to fire him. Essentially, was what I was reading into it.
Gonna pull Mourinho.
Between paying him out and then hiring a new coach and like everything. It's risky to do sometimes, man. You think you have your guy, Allegri made sense at the time. Weird. Let's head over to the Stars and Stripes section. This is where we go over the United States men's national team players all across the globe, standout performances. First off, let's kick it off with the main guy, Christian Pulisic. 72 minutes played, 1 goal, 88% passing. In my opinion, probably could have had 1, if not another goal, but was constantly on the attack. Looked like he was being really aggressive in the final third. What you guys take on him?
Yeah, no, it's exactly what he needed. Potter came out recently, had some interesting comments as well regarding Pulisic in particular, saying, he didn't want him to get too over eager to kind of keep his controlled play. But I actually disagree. I think Christian's at his best when he's explosive, when he's running at defenders and he's a little bit frantic and he has that chip on his shoulder. And it looked like he had a point to prove in the 72 minutes he was on the field, and he did very well with that goal. Overall, good performance and a good starting point for him. It's just always been about consistency with Christian when it comes to his club play. So he's got to be able to do that week in, week out. But we'll see if he's going to get the chance to do it week in, week out, or Potter will continue with his rotation like we've seen him do recently.
I got a lot of shit a couple weeks ago on Twitter for posting when Potter became the head coach that I could see Pulisic thriving in that almost Trossard type role that he played for Brighton. And I'm not saying that Potter has that idea, but I kind of get the feeling is if he does that with him and he gives Pulisic the opportunity in the minutes to play, I think you could see a really revived Christian Pulisic in this Chelsea team in particular. He looked really, really good in the game against Wolves. He could have honestly had 2 goals if it wasn't for an outstanding save by Jose Sa, honestly.
That was nasty. Yeah.
It's just an unbelievable world-class save. And when he plays, like what Vito said, with a chip on his shoulder, there are very few players on the wing I would want to play against in particular, because he is a game changer in that sense.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you guys saying when he plays at left wing, his natural position, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think the system suits. Yeah, I think the system suits him very well under Graham Potter. Definitely much more so than it did Thomas Tuchel's tactics. Potter likes players in
position.
Yeah, Potter likes his players interchanging back and forth and moving pretty fluidly through the attack. And that works very well for Pulisic, who's very, very lively and likes to drive past players and pick up the ball and pocket the space behind the center mids. So I think from that perspective, the way Potter likes to play is the perfect system for Pulisic to bring his career back on track.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Hope so. World Cup's only about, I don't know,
a month and a half, right? Holy crap. It's like 45 days. Yeah.
Get ready, boys. Moving on. Josh Sargent, a name that's been pretty familiar, especially since the new season's been starting. 90 minutes played, another goal, 2 successful dribbles, 80% passing, and 5 out of 10 ground goals. 1 in a loss, though, if I'm not mistaken. I think they lost 1-2 or 2-1. What do you guys take about his international performance versus how he's performing at the club?
I think the international, the team itself, the system that Greg always refers to, it's not meant for Josh Sargent, to be honest.
Well, if you're basing it off the last 2 games they played, it's not meant for anyone in that team.
Any striker, any 9 that's in the world.
Yeah.
Glad I missed those podcasts. I might have went in.
But
oh shit.
I mean, I'm happy that obviously he's scoring and he's doing well for Norwich, because it's doing obviously a great amount of deal for his confidence, and he is looking like the true finisher we all know that he is, and the playmaker that he can be. I'm just more concerned about him if he comes to Qatar being utilized properly and having the right tools in place for him to thrive. Because I don't think he's the type of striker who he can create on his own, but I think he more or less thrives on those like 1-2s, the link up play, the service. He's not going to go out and just beat somebody one-on-one like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. What do you guys think about his chances for Qatar, given that we've been talking for a couple of weeks, like every time we do this podcast, we talk about Josh Sargent because he's just shipping in goals. For me, I think he's pretty much a lock at this point to be on the plane to Qatar. Do you guys think that Greg's thinking something differently, or is he in his plans indefinitely?
I'm 50-50. I truthfully, I think Greg really made up his mind already between Ferrara, Pepe, and then the third one's up for grabs. It's between Sargent, P-Folk. I don't think Haji's going to get it either, even though I think he possibly should. Vasquez is definitely out of the question, even though he's freaking killing it over in MLS.
Do you think it's down to P-Folk and him?
I think so, and
I don't think he'd go with P-Folk.
I might give.
I don't think he goes. I don't think he goes P-Folk.
I don't think so.
I don't either, just because of who he called in.
Yeah, I just don't see it.
Which I think is an utter disgrace, but I mean that's just my opinion. I'm not the United States national head coach. I'm 50-50.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see in 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, apparently I think they're calling in the roster pretty early, actually.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be 30 days prior, so it should be coming up soon.
Hopefully, but it's tough. Anyway, moving on. Another striker we just mentioned, Ricardo Pepe, 90 minutes played, 2 goals, one successful dribble, and won 6 out of 11 aerial duels. The revival is on over in the Netherlands. Seems to be like Greg likes him a lot.
Yeah, I think I don't think he's locked. If anything, he's behind. For me, at least, I think he's behind Sargent and P-Folk in the pecking order. But yeah, from Greg's perspective, I think he's probably locked in.
Hell no, he is locked in.
I'm saying for me,
after the comments he made prior to him going out to the game, where he goes, "Oh, we don't need him to score 5 or 6 goals. We just need him to play in the system and be the striker we need him to be."
He's the system.
It's like what? It's like what? What do you mean you need a striker to score goals? What kind of comment is that?
I mean, in Greg's defense, the last winners of the World Cup, France, Drew did not score a goal and played in every game, and he was highlighted in all of them because he actually played an incredible form.
Yeah, but they had Mbappe.
Ricardo Pepe is not Oliver Giroud, first of all.
Olivier Giroud.
It's French, bud. You got it right.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, when we have the talent of that France team that won the World Cup, we can start making these decisions. But until then, when we can't score a goal in 2 games against quote unquote lesser opponents, I think we need our striker to score.
I don't know, man. Japan's pretty sneaky.
They do have a good team.
They should be Belgium, and they were a quarterfinal team last year. Besides that collapse to Belgium, we shouldn't frown upon them as being scrubs. Yes, do I think we are a better and more talented team? We probably should be, but I also thought those World Cup games were perfect high pressure stuff that we need to be able to handle, and we obviously couldn't. So I think those are actually great warm ups. But yes, regardless, heading over to another number 9, Jesus Ferrara. 90 minutes played, 1 assist, 88% passing, 4 chances created, and 2 successful dribbles, and a man of the match performance for FC Dallas.
Yeah.
Obviously, the only lock that we 100% guarantee we're definitely seeing. Probably going to be the starter. If I had to guess for United States men's national team, I feel like he won the job in like the last 8 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
The moment it fell out of Pepe's pocket, it went to Jesus Ferrara, and it hasn't left since.
Yeah, as the default. Yeah, he's the default.
I mean, yeah, I guess everyone else had their chances. They didn't take them. So
Yeah.
fair enough. Last man up. Brandon Vasquez, 85 minutes played, 1 goal, 3 assists, and 76% passing. Hell of a game from the young man, but unfortunately, probably too late for him to make the roster. Do you think anything weird's gonna happen? Because obviously we can have an extra 3 guys on this squad. I'm not saying him specific. I'm not saying him specifically, but like any player out of the ordinary that we might see.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be the same guys you normally see and you expect. Maybe one surprise, maybe, but that's not even going to be too much of a surprise because if anything, it's going to be someone who was on the fringes that we now have space for given the expanded rosters. So I don't think you're going to like be blown away to see, all of a sudden here's John Brooks come trotting in. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to be fairly standard. That would be fantastic, but that's
the headlines would be ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Greg's just like, welcome back. We play a high line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then last, not really a standout performance by any means, but just great to see him back. Tim Weah, 17 minutes as a substitute appearance for Lille. Huge. He's murdered it in qualifiers for us, playing that right wing position, almost to the point of where we're talking about him starting over Reina over there. If he's healthy and back in action, I'm probably still going with that.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned. Good.
No, you're good. Go for it.
I was gonna say we didn't mention them too in the list, but I thought just an honorable shout out. I thought Aronson and Adams been playing really well for Leeds as well too.
Yeah,
they've been tearing it up, and then Reina in particular is slowly making comeback with minutes with Dortmund. He had a good cameo yesterday too for the Dortmund's Champions League game.
Yeah. Do you guys think every manager's job is always in the line when it comes to a big tournament, right? Like when you look at the club platform, managers are brought in to win the Champions League for these larger clubs. Do you think Greg is going to get judged entirely off this World Cup and he would lose his job over a poor showing, or do you think the federation would stick with him? Because for me, I think okay. So you think no matter what he's staying?
No, I think
100%. Unless we go over 3. We go 0-3.
Yeah.
And we put up or we ship away 10 goals and score 1. I think his job is pretty secure regardless of what happens in the outcome.
Is that what you think, or what you prefer though?
That's what I think. What I prefer, he should 100% be on the hot seat.
Yeah. I prefer, regardless of the showing, Greg is out after this World Cup. I think tactically he's extremely flawed, and especially in his substitutions, and he always comes back rectifying it at halftime or trying to. But I don't know. I was just curious if you thought his job would be on the line after this World Cup.
I think
keep
it should
him as
be.
head of recruitment.
What's up?
He's done an excellent job of taking dual nationals. That's him. He is amazing at that. I'm not gonna shit on him by any means. But yes, tactically, I don't think he's the best coach. He relies. I don't want to make that MLS European debate by any means, but most of our talented players are over in Europe, and he relies heavily on some guys that are in MLS who just put up some numbers there, but would not nearly cut it at the highest level of football. But most coaches are going to do that because it's U.S. Soccer Federation, and they're basically intertwined with MLS, and I get it. So, sucks. And isn't Greg the brother of the COO or something like that?
Yeah, the CFO or the COO, something like that.
Oh, so nepotism as well. I love it.
Yeah, he ain't getting fired, homie.
Yeah,
it's not happening. Let's head back to the Premier League. We got some matches we got to cover. Let's do our weekly recap. Go through all 10 of the matches. First off, we'll just knock it out. Chelsea 3, Wolves 0. Good win for Chelsea. Different names on the score sheet, which is also great to see for them. Most of them up top and in the attack, and not defenders, which is unusual. On the Wolves side, obviously some big issues going on. They fired Bruno Lage. We didn't have a podcast last week, but that was pretty much when we would have covered it. Wolves have not recruited well at all, and they've also been getting players taken away from them.
It's interesting. All of the Jorge Mendes players, all the B Portugal players he's trying to bring over, did not work out. Who would have thought?
Do you guys think Wolves are in trouble? I was very against it, and now I'm in between.
I think they're in trouble of finishing lower than where they even anticipated themselves. But like, I don't think they're in trouble of going down still. I still think it's a long season, but anything could happen.
Vito, throughout 9 games have put up
One win.
Not even just one win, 3 goals. 3 goals. They're not even losing like in shootouts. They're losing.
Yeah, that's true.
They're losing bad. They need somebody up top to start scoring goals and putting that away, because you could have a great defense, but if you're not even giving a threat up front, then I don't know what to say about that. Like that is very concerning, to be honest. And I mean,
that's got to be some kind of record.
You look at the teams below them, Nottingham Forest and Leicester right now. I mean, I would probably eventually put Leicester above Wolves at a certain point when the season all pans out. And Nottingham Forest, I still think they get relegated, but the way they're playing, I think they have a decent chance of getting maybe a near to above Wolves, honestly. Like in that, like fighting for that 17th spot or that 18th spot.
That would be brutal. See, that would be brutal to see Wolves go down.
Yeah, I think they're in trouble. I'm with Mike on that one. Like I said, they haven't brought anyone in. They got most of their players, I feel like, poached, and you literally can't survive like that in the Premier League. We're watching it with Leicester too, who are actually below Wolves, shockingly.
For now, I think they'll eventually leapfrog them, but for now, yeah.
Well, big game this weekend.
Speaking of Leicester, because they did really well this weekend. They lost 2-1 to Bournemouth. They had a big win we didn't cover. It was 4-0 over Nottingham Forest. They ran rampant, and then returned their losing ways pretty damn quickly.
Yeah.
I still don't know how. Are you guys shocked? Rodgers hasn't been fired yet, to my knowledge, right?
No, he is not.
Okay.
No, I think he has till Christmas, until the World Cup, honestly, to turn things around slightly.
You think that long?
I think it's only a month away, and I think we're over-exaggerating the amount of games in between that now and then. I think it's maybe 3 more Premier League matches in total. I think you give him a chance to steer the ship right now. And if he can get through that and things start taking uptick and he has a month off to kind of work with his players, because let's face it, a lot of those Leicester players are probably not going to the World Cup and he has a lot of time to drill them, then yeah, I think if you see that uptick, then you give him that shot.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be determined before that as well, because Wolves have to play Leicester still.
They do.
And that's going to be a huge and very telling match for them. And depending on how that goes, I think you'd see a Brendan Rodgers sacking right after that, or maybe a little bit of a ship correction, just slightly, because I still think, to your point, Steve, they're in a huge amount of trouble for the long haul for the duration of the season.
Like, do they just shipping goals? Like, and it's not even like crap on them, because they score. Like, I think they have like 14, 15, 16 goals, something in that range.
Yeah, they're putting up numbers.
They just can't get the ball in the back of the net. Like, it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, they have to play Palace, which, it's a toss-up of a game in a sense. Like, there's an opportunity there for them to get points.
Yes.
They have to play Leeds, which is an opportunity to get points. Wolves, which I think is that make all be all game.
Mm-hmm.
Then they play Man City, chalk that up as an L right now. And they have to play Everton before the World Cup. And West Ham, excuse me. So there are opportunities in there for Brendan Rodgers and company to get points. It's just coming down to the fact, can that defense, to your point, like hold out? Because selling Fofana, selling a lot of their players have gotten injured. I understand stuff hasn't gone their way, but
age taking over Vardy.
I mean, everything is going in the wrong direction for them right now.
Yeah.
Just want to say, call the Vardy thing and the Leicester thing.
Yeah.
Leicester need to take that Man City game out of the equation, right? There's 5 games before the World Cup. So my earlier number of 3 was definitely not right.
I was going to shit on you for that.
They need to win minimum 2. What's that?
I was going to shit on you for that too, but I let that one slip.
Yeah. I don't know why I said that. But those 5 games, I think you need a minimum of 2 wins at the very, very least. And of those other 3 games, one of those needs to be a draw. You cannot walk out of those 5 games with anything less than 7 points at a minimum. I think realistically, you're talking about 3 wins here. Wolves and Everton, they have to beat, because those are going to be relegation candidates with them. And then Palace and Leeds, to my point, are winnable games. This is the time to do it. And after this, it's Brendan in or Brendan out.
I don't think they beat Everton, to be honest.
You don't think so?
Everton has a great defense. They're
Everton
really
looking
stout.
actually much better this
They've
year.
really got a lot better.
Yeah, I would even consider them a relegation candidate, because they're close to the top half of the table, or not top, top half of the table. Yep, they're like 11th or 12th.
Yeah, but 10 points is not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of points right now separating the standings. Like they might be up there, but
yeah,
I mean, you're talking about 1 win for these other teams and they swap places.
Yes, understandable, but I wouldn't put Everton in that relegation bucket.
All right.
Aren't most of Everton's like losses though to top teams? Or I could be wrong. They've drawn a shit ton of games.
Yeah, they have 4 draws in their opening 9 matches. But
Yeah.
Everton doesn't score a lot. They only have 8 goals. They've conceded 9. And Leicester have scored. Leicester, at being in last place, have scored 15 goals. The next highest team is Liverpool in 10th place, and then after that, to get up there, you have to go to 6th place in Newcastle.
That's what I'm saying. They're
So-
putting in goals. They could just figure it out a little bit defensively. They're going to start climbing pretty quick. So
Yes, agreed. They've let in 24.
yeah.
But
Kind
anyway,
of crazy though. 9 goals only. A Frankie team playing defense. Like to see it.
yeah.
Heading on, we got Man City 4-0 winners over Southampton. Nothing new there. Kind of just run through that game. Newcastle 5-1 over Brentford. My opinion, statement game from Newcastle. They had a lot of draws to open up the season. Eddie Howe had a little bit of pressure on him, saying like, "Oh, we gave you all this talent and money, and then like, what's not getting results?" That's a result. And they also just won, I think, 4-0 the past weekend. And Brentford's end, probably one of the worst games in a long time.
They looked very sloppy defensively.
Yeah.
I was watching that game live, and they just kept giving the ball in like the worst possible scenarios. The keeper in particular just had a shitty game. But credit to Newcastle. They made the points count where they had to, and in particular, Bruno Guimaraes is turning into one of the best, probably center defensive mids in the Premier League, if he isn't already up there already, outside of a top traditional 6 team. He's a revelation for them in that squad, honestly.
Yeah, on the score sheet twice that match.
Yeah.
Agreed. Moving on. Brighton 0, Tottenham 1. Mike, what are your takes on your boys?
Well, it was a very emotionally charged game because it was right after Tottenham's fitness coach Petroni died. So there was a lot of obviously extra feelings in that for both sides. But it was good to see them bounce back because if I'm not mistaken, Brighton at home, they're one of the tougher teams to beat in the Premier League as of late. They haven't lost any game since Tottenham last year when they came.
Last February, I think it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, to beat Brighton at home, that's a pretty big win for Tottenham, especially after the shitty weekend they had against Arsenal, getting their asses kicked in the North London derby. So I'm happy with that game. Brighton could feel a little bit aggrieved. They had some chances, but they just didn't have like that one or two like actually clinical finish, unfortunately.
Yeah, we talked about it after Chelsea Tottenham earlier in the season that this Tottenham team doesn't know when to quit and when to lay down, which is pretty typical of every Antonio Conte team. It just was whether or not that was going to be sustainable. And I think this is a good example of that. It is. They're grinding and they're finding a way to put these results together, even when it's ugly and it's a 1-0 score line, right? And that's what you need if you want to finish in the top 4 when you have teams like Arsenal and Manchester City playing the way they are right now. So I mean, I still have them finishing 3rd place overall, to be honest. But it's Mike, I guess from your perspective, it's got to be a little refreshing to see that never lay down attitude, right?
I honestly haven't seen that since like mid Pochettino in a while. Like you haven't seen that, which is awesome. They haven't really kicked into full gear, honestly, this entire year, at least up front, like the way they did when like Kulusevski first came in January.
On fire.
Yeah, so he's been injured. He's coming back, so you'll probably see an uptick in them. But in particular, too, I was impressed in the Brighton game itself. I thought Brighton, even though they just lost Potter a couple games in, they still looked very, very good, very in sync with what they were trying to do. I think De Zerbi,
their team feels like he really
coach.
hasn't left yet.
It doesn't feel like he's left, and it also doesn't feel like De Zerbi in particular has to do too much as a coach. He just kind of lets the players do their thing, and it's like so ingrained into them how they should operate and play that, I think it's a great system for them, and they'll be just fine too, Brighton. So,
yeah, I'm with you. I couldn't agree more on that. Moving on, Crystal Palace 2-1 winners over Leeds. Big win for Crystal Palace. Their schedule is finally starting to lighten up for them, which is awesome. I mean, they had one of the most ruthless openings to a season we've seen in a long time, and they still got results. I see them flying up. I don't want to say fly up the table, but head up there pretty like top half of the table very, very soon. On the other end, Leeds, they started off extremely hot under Jesse Marsh. We had the massive 3-0 win over Chelsea just to open up the season pretty much. Where do you think they are at now as a team?
They're not in good form right now, I'll tell you that.
Expert analysis over there.
Yeah. Three losses, 2 draws out of the past 5 games.
Yeah.
And it's not like it gets any easier before the World Cup either. They have to play Arsenal, they have to play Liverpool, Fulham, who's not an easy team to play against. Tottenham. I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough sledding up to the World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if you see them drop a little bit farther down the pecking order in terms of the Premier League table. I wonder if that puts Marsh under some serious fire, or if they stick with him or not to give him time to work through some of the kinks and get through that busy part of the season coming up.
Yeah, I mean, Leeds are this type of team that reminded me of Leicester a couple of years ago, where on their day they have the ability and the talent on the field to beat anyone they play against. You just never know who you're going to get, and as of recently, it hasn't been good. To Mike's point, this Leeds team right now, I had them as a dark horse for finishing a little higher up the table, and I think people give them credit for, and I still believe that. I think they have the talent there, but I think it's going to get darker before it gets brighter, given their current form, and to Mike's point, who they have coming up next. I mean, you're talking about potentially the next 5 games, maybe picking up 1 win, 2 wins tops, if that, and everything else could be a loss because it's not easy fixtures. So I highly expect that Marsh's job is going to be on the line come World Cup, that there'll be questions being asked of him where the management's going to have to make a decision, because Mike, what was it? No wins in the last 5 or 1 win in the last 5?
No wins in the last 5. 2
Yeah,
draws.
No wins in their last 5. And then they still have games against 3 teams, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Tottenham, which you don't expect them to beat, especially considering they're going to have to go to Anfield and go to Spurs. And that's not great going into a World Cup break.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually wasn't too concerned about his job. I thought they'd stick with him. I don't think that, again, you're bringing up great points where, like, yeah, they're going to play tough teams. I mean, if he gets a result or 2 out of that, like, he's obviously very secured in his job placement. But even if you don't, can you really judge him? Because obviously there's such a massive quality or difference in quality on the teams. So it kind of go either way with that one.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to move on to the next one. What do you got?
I was going to say, I think if they make a decision like that, I don't think it's down to the upcoming 5 games. It's down to what happened before that too, including a 5-2 hammering from Brentford, and a 0-0 draw at Aston Villa. So I don't think it'd be down the next 5. I think it'd be a cumulative thing at that point.
Gotcha. Okay, it makes sense. West Ham 3-1 winners over Fulham. Back-to-back losses for Fulham. First one, to my knowledge, from a team below them in the table, although West Ham just had a really bad start to the year. So I'd kind of take that with a grain of salt there. West Ham fighting back up. And do you think for Fulham the party's over and you're going to have to start grinding out results kind of similar to what we saw at Brentford last year? Or a couple of hiccups on the radars, some good teams that they played. I think it was we had West Ham, obviously. I think the one previously was not West Ham, Newcastle. So more quality just overshadowing, overpowering Fulham, or hey, like, welcome back to the Premier League kind of thing?
I mean, from Fulham's perspective, I think the next few games are going to be very telling for them. They're playing a lot of teams around them where we'd expect them to finish in the table when it's all said and done: Bournemouth, Villa, Leeds, and Everton. So I think these next couple games are going to tell us which Fulham team you're going to get realistically. And if it's that, like, true, hey, like, it's that Brentford or maybe that Brighton first season where they come in, they do really well, much better than people expect, or they start dropping some serious points, and then the World Cup fixtures maybe save them a little bit because it gives them some rest. But I don't know. I mean, and then for West Ham, Skamaka in particular, that dude's a guy on fire. He's looking like a good signing for them up front, to play striker to help replace Antonio with the changing of the guard. So you'll see them start to slowly move up the table too, a little bit before the World Cup.
Do you think the slow start, though, hinders them for potentially pushing for Europe, or it's still pretty early in the season and they can recover?
I mean, to push to Europe, I mean, they're only 4 points off right now, right? 4 or 5 points off. So I
So
think
early.
I think it's too early to say
Way
that.
too early.
Yeah, I think it's too early.
If anything, I'm way more worried about Fulham. Like, regardless of the fact that they have 11 points, I think now that we're almost 10 games into the season, you can look back at Fulham's schedule and say they lost to who you expected them to lose to: Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea got postponed, and people are gonna go back and they're gonna say, oh, but they got 3 wins, they got X amount of points, and it's like, yeah, they tied Liverpool on the opening day when adrenaline was high, knowing that Liverpool, what we know now, were faltering for large portions of this season so far. And then they beat teams like Brentford, who just got absolutely mauled last week by Newcastle, drew against a struggling Wolves team. And they did get a fantastic result against Brighton. I'll give them that. But they beat Nottingham Forest. Like, they're winning games that they should win, and they're losing games that they should lose. But it's not convincing necessarily at the same time for me. So I thought they would be finishing about like 10th place or so, but I actually think they're going to be closer to about 14th, 15th this year. But I still think they stay alive.
I mean, I think for them that's the objective, though. It's just not get relegated at this point.
Yeah, I think they're just getting overplayed right now in the quality. I think is my only thing.
All right. Well, job well done for them then. The most interesting game of the weekend, if we had to pick one out here: Arsenal 3, Liverpool 2. Are Arsenal contenders, guys?
I'd have to say, yeah. I mean, comparatively speaking to all the other teams around them, they seem to be the only team that can actually put up a fight for now versus Manchester City, right? I mean, you're almost 10 games into the season. You're leading Man City with the robot that is Erling Haaland, putting up hat tricks seemingly every other game.
Literally.
Not seemingly, he does. That's a fact.
I mean, it's impressive. I'm going to give him that. It's very impressive. Do I think they have that run and continue to hold the top spot? No, I think City are just way too complete of a team in general, but I think they definitely give them a run for their money. And it's interesting to see the disciple Pep putting together a team and, Arteta in Pep's image, and seeing the Arsenal young players really kick into gear, especially Martinelli. He's looked awesome since the beginning. So
unbelievable.
He's looked really, really good.
Look, let's not get it confused. Arsenal are the most entertaining team to watch in the Premier League right now. Their play is just so intricate and so beautiful. It's unbelievable. But to Mike's point, it's not.
It is. It's disgusting. You can shower after this.
What did I say? I missed that. I totally just gloss over what I said, and I didn't realize what I said. Okay. Anyway, it's not possible. Like, yes, if you had to pick a single contender for a title at this point, it's obviously Arsenal. It's no two ways about it. But I still don't even consider them a contender because what they're doing, it has never been proved sustainable in the past how many years, even when they have looked good. And City are just an absolute otherworldly machine. Like, eventually it's good. The party's gonna be over for Arsenal, but it's not going to be over for City. We've seen it how many times now in the last 5 years?
Yeah.
So contenders, yes. Serious contenders, I don't think there is one in the entire league.
No, not at all.
If you were to ever consider them, when do you think you made that adjustment? Like January transfer window?
No, I think that'd even be too soon. I mean, you've seen City or Liverpool come back. Like, I mean, Liverpool was down how many points towards the later half of last year, and they made it a title race, right? So for me to consider Arsenal actual title contenders, I think it's got to be like 20 games into the season at least, to see that they can do it consistently, even with a hectic schedule, post World Cup, tired legs, and not a whole lot of options on the bench compared to what City has.
Yeah.
Got it. So after January transfer window, like I said, 20 games. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said during the January transfer window. I was like,
oh, did I? My mistake. I just shut you for no reason. My apologies.
But also shout out to the Arsenal recruiting getting the Jesus deal right. Man, he's looked so goddamn good too.
Did you see the report?
Did
you see the report on why they let him go to Arsenal?
They didn't think he'd hurt him.
What's up?
They didn't think he'd hurt him.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. They said Pep thought the gulf between Arsenal and them was so large it didn't make a difference, and now it's like, shit.
It's made a 9-game difference so far.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's head over to the other side of this, though. Jesus Christ. Liverpool, they do have a game in hand, but right now we're sitting 14 points back of the current first place team in Arsenal. Let's say they lose to Man City. Probably likely. They're sitting at a minimum 16 points back 10 games into the year. It's mind-boggling. What all happened? What went wrong? In my eyes, they got old and they haven't recruited enough young talent. Any other thing to add to that, though?
I wouldn't say that
I don't think
they
so.
haven't. I wouldn't say that it isn't. They recruited enough young talents. I do think they have. Like they have players like Harvey Elliott and Fabio Cavallo, who are
Luis Diaz is young.
Luis Diaz, yeah. Like they have good
25.
They have good young players. I just think the main thing that they didn't do was find a replacement for Wijnaldum. I think Wijnaldum leaving and that technical 8-ish hybrid 6 role where he can come in, do everything really well. I mean, I think that's killed them, not having a player who they can feed the ball to, who can control the game. And because of that, they're relying too much on Thiago. Thiago's getting injured. Now they have nobody but Henderson and James Milner in the middle of the midfield. And it's apparent that Fabinho can't keep up anymore. And then they're leaving Trent totally exposed because of that, right? So I think it's just poor management from that perspective, to be frank.
I would agree with that. I would take it one step further and say my biggest concern with them, and what it has been for a while now, is not finding a true center back partner for Virgil van Dijk. They went out and spent all this money on Konate, who doesn't play consistently. They swap between like Joe Gomez, Matip, Konate. There's no consistency back there. And when you have players like Trent, who, regardless of the fact that Trent doesn't get a whole lot of rest, plain can't defend and is not aware, and Van Dijk plays on the opposite side of that center back pairing, then you're going to get hurt over there when you don't have consistency to the back line. And it's going to start showing now because Trent's out. Robertson has been, I think, in and out for a little while now.
He's injured. Yeah, he's been injured.
And Van Dijk can't do it alone. They did nothing to figure out what to do about that, right? They brought in attacking reinforcements to strengthen after Mane left. They have fluidity up front. They can put like any 5 players up there and it's world class. And they have enough in the midfield to get by, right? They're controlled enough that it's not so much of a concern. I think they've completely ignored the back line and the cohesiveness of it. And I think that's where they're getting hurt, because they're letting in more goals right now than they probably did through what I would guarantee you through the first 15, 16, 17 games of last year. And they probably let the same amount in half the amount of games.
Tell us how you really feel. I'm with you guys. It's an absolute crapshoot over there. This is, I feel like, in a very unintentional rebuild year for them.
Mm-hmm.
Very unintentional. It's interesting to see too this happen when they wouldn't pay Sadio Mane as well. So now this happens. So shots fired there, Mike. He's tearing it up at Bayern. He obviously still has more in the tank. So
yeah. Want to put this into perspective? 2021-22 season, Liverpool let in 26 goals through the entire campaign. They've already let 12 in 9 games. They're close to being one more goal, and they've conceded half the amount in the entirety of last year. If they let in a goal next week,
how many are down the right side?
Sorry, my coding hasn't allowed me for that type of analysis.
I mean, Mike said Trent gets exposed because the midfielders can't help him out too much. I think Trent also exposes Trent himself.
I think he's lazy. I think he's lazy and he loses focus.
I don't think that I don't think that he's lazy. I think the system is designed for him to be pushed up into those places because he's really fucking good at putting those balls in and those crosses.
But even when he doesn't,
and he should have somebody like Fabinho come over and cover him, but they don't have him.
No, I understand that. I agree, and I get it from that perspective. Like when he's getting beat on the flank for pace, when he's already pushed far up the field, that's fine. But I can pull 5-10 instances this year already where he's standing in or around the 18-yard box and players are just running past him.
I see that. Yes, I've seen that.
I don't know. I personally think Reece James is going to start over him.
100% be a lock. 110%, not even close.
Yeah.
All right, enough shitting on Liverpool. Moving on. Everton 1, Man U 2. Good comeback win here for Man U. They went down early from I think the 5th minute by Iwobi, and then
it was a screamer, absolute bomb of a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then ironically, Ronaldo with the winner.
Didn't he
Is it
miss the
wrong to
sitter
be
first?
doubting him right now?
Death, taxes, and Ronaldo scoring goals. That's the certainties in life. Yeah, I mean, he's not playing week in, week out. He's angry about it. What else is new? He's a serial winner, and he'll come good. He'll end the campaign with a respectable haul, regardless of the fact that Manchester United is not of the caliber they want to be. But it's good to see them fight back. United is a team that for the last 3 years, guys, has not played with enough heart, especially at a deficit. So whenever they can make these comeback wins, I think it's a good sign of thing moving forward. You think Ten Hag's impact is visible so far, and obviously not to the degree he wants it, but
1,000%.
Yeah.
They look.
They're only a few points off top
Yeah,
four.
they're in 15th
fifth place.
They're in fifth
Right?
place with 15 points. Yeah, his
They're a point
impact
off,
it can't be understated enough right now. He's got the team playing kind of how he wants them to play, but I think you won't see that next step until the following year once he's able to get rid of Ronaldo, once he's able to get rid of some of those players where they just don't make sense for the system, right? But he kind of is forced to play them. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, going into the year, we all picked them to be like possibly not even make Europe, right?
Yeah.
He has them pushing well above that, which is what is supposed to be a rebuild year for them.
Yeah. Let's keep in mind they have a game in hand as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, yeah, that too. They could, if Chelsea drops points and they win. I mean, yeah, it's.
Are you worried about kind of a Jekyll and Hyde thing with this team? No draws this year. It seems like it's either been a win most of the time convincingly, or just a hammering when they look completely out of sorts.
And I think it's going to happen though, because like I said, they're going through a rebuild. They're going through a big transition, new manager, players that possibly don't want to be there that we saw from the media.
Yeah.
And he's only had a little bit of time. Like, who they really bring in? They didn't really recruit too much, right? They have one big
Casemiro.
name.
I mean, they Casemiro,
Malacia,
Anthony, Lisandro Martinez.
They brought in like a bunch of people for good money.
Did they?
Yeah.
They spent money.
Mostly young talents, which has been nice outside of Casemiro.
And it's all players that are more or less from that Dutch system. The players that
he knows well.
He knows well.
Yeah.
So
how much was Anthony had? He actually was a lot, wasn't he? He was like 100 mil.
Who?
Anthony was 100.
Yeah.
Anthony, yeah, he was 100.
It was like $180 just between him and Casemiro.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably outlaid about 250 this transfer window.
Good for them. They needed it. Last game of the week, Forest won, Villa won. Miserable result for Villa, just adding on to their piles of whatever you want to call it with Gerrard. On Forest's end, it felt like they got him out of the bottom of the table, 1 point over Leicester, if I'm not mistaken. It felt like they gave humanly everything to just get a draw against Villa.
Yeah, they were grinding. Nottingham Forest is starting to show the cracks that we thought, not life. I mean, the cracks, like even the past couple of weeks, like we said, with all these new players coming in, what's going to happen with the team? Typically when that happens in the Premier League, it's nothing good. They got off to a hot start initially, but I think you're starting to see Steve Cooper's a good coach. There was talks about him losing his job. They even gave him a little bit of they let him stay, right? I mean, I think it's the right move for now, but it's a big uphill battle for Nottingham Forest. I don't really know what to say about them. So.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have enough.
No, I don't think so either. I'm just, what I was trying to get at is like, it felt like they got life in this game, but it also felt like they put forward like one of their best efforts of the campaign, and they still couldn't get 3 points.
Yeah, I mean,
which is like scary against Villa.
Yeah,
I mean, Aston Villa are no slouches either. You know, they have a decent squad.
Not saying they are
under that. I mean, they look like they're slouches. They're underperforming like hell.
Crazy.
So I don't know how long Gerrard's able to keep his job, but like before the World Cup, do you think there's a real probability he's out?
I think for any coach on the hot seat right now, currently, or that could potentially be on the hot seat, the World Cup is going to be the time where like we might see a bunch of owners clean house.
Yeah, especially with a month to figure out what they want to do to bring a new manager in, change the tactics, and figure out the January transfer window.
It's almost like hiring a guy in the summer.
Yes, 100%. Couldn't agree more.
So
Nottingham have to be really careful though, because I mean they've put themselves in a highly dangerous financial situation with the outlay if they don't stay up, because then you're going to have a mass exodus, and it's going to be the same thing if they go down at that point. Look, they drew and got a point off a team that they needed to get points off of, right? Like when you're talking about teams staying up, especially their first year, you need to grab the points off of teams that you think you can grab them off of, right? Walking out of there with a point, to me, is still a fine result, because come the end of the season, those are going to stack. If they can continue getting, a draw here, a draw there against a Leeds or a Palace or something like that, that's fine. They just have to start, obviously avoiding those losses, which they have 6 of them in their opening 9 matches. So I don't think it's a horrible thing. I think it's a good step forward, but they still have a lot to figure out, and I still don't think they're going to be able to do it in time.
I mean, they're shipping in goals also, man.
Oh yeah, what, 22 so far?
22 against.
Yeah, I think only Leicester's above them.
And surprisingly, too, another relegation candidate that we thought would be the bottom, I thought would personally be the bottom, Bournemouth, sitting at 8th. They have 20 goals against, too, which is kind of surprising. I think they'll start to drop. We kind of missed them, but.
Yeah, I had Southampton going down, and they're just sitting right outside that relegation zone at the moment. Obviously, way too early, but who knows?
Yeah, ever since the Parker sacking, they haven't lost, right?
No, they've been playing very well. Playing
Good for
really
them.
well.
All right, let's head into our match previews for the upcoming week. First off, on Friday, Brentford versus Brighton. On FanDuel, currently they got Brighton as plus 200 to win, plus 230 as a draw, and Brighton actually have plus odds, even though they're away, or that they are away, plus 135 to win this game.
Yeah, I give it to Brighton. They're in just such incredible form right now, and Brentford just got smacked. I like this Brighton team so much. Like, it's unbelievable. They're just a fun team to watch. Trossard's a man on fire, and it seems like no matter where they go, they're giving a game, even if it means they might not come out. And I'll give a team that edge any day of the week.
Yeah, I think from Brentford's perspective, I think it's a little harsh, especially that they are playing at home, correct? Like you said, Steve.
Yeah.
Yes. I just feel like they signed Mikkel Damsgaard, who's a really good center attacking mid, apparently the heir to Christian Eriksen in Denmark. And they just haven't utilized him enough. And I feel like they really got to start getting him into the game a lot more. And maybe that can change their fortunes a little bit. But until that happens and Thomas Frank has some confidence in him, I feel like a Brighton win is probably inevitable.
Okay. Heading over to Saturday, first game up, we have Leicester hosting Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace actually the underdogs in this one, plus 210.
You said Palace is underdogs?
Correct. Yeah. Leicester is plus 130, and then Crystal Palace are plus 210.
Hammer the Palace money line. Hammer it. Who is coming up with these odds? Are you sure you're reading properly? Are you dyslexic? Because does not sound right.
People that are way smarter than us, and typically when that happens, and I think it's an absolute lock, it's usually a Leicester win. So.
They got that shit down to science, bro. It's unbelievable. But I still think it's going to be a game for Palace. It's going to be all there for them. Leicester have looked better. I mean, James Maddison has made an impact since coming back, and he looks like he's trying to drag this team by its bootstraps. But Vieira has Palace at a point that you, Steve, picked them early on, right? To finish like as your dark horses.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you've hit it spot on, and it's going to be hard for me to pick anyone against Palace when they're coming up against teams struggling like Leicester. I think through and through, they're going to have the edge in this match, regardless that it's at the King Power.
I'm with you. I'm currently actually, as we're going through the odds, I'm working on a 5-leg parlay. So $744.
Put the house on it.
So far, we got Brighton and Crystal Palace in there. Those are my 2 money lines. I'm laying off this next game though. We got Fulham and Bournemouth.
I take a draw on this one. Two teams that desperately needed to get back on track.
Two teams that have been playing, well, one not the greatest, Bournemouth pretty well. I think a draw's a good result here for both teams. So
I go to Fulham win. They're minus 120 at home. It's a good get right game for them, although Bournemouth has been absolute tough to beat as of late, as we just mentioned. So I'm feeling Fulham.
All right.
Again, I'm laying off that because I'm not that confident in it. Wolves hosted Nottingham Forest.
Huge match.
At the bottom.
Huge match. I think this is where Wolves start to steady the ship just a little bit, at least for a short time frame. I know you thought they were pretty lively last week, Steve, but I just don't see anything in Nottingham that would suggest to me that they're going to be able to pull off a win in this match, regardless of the way Wolves are playing right now. I think they're going to turn it around.
I see this being a draw. As a team that can't score in Wolves, a team that can't defend in Nottingham Forest. So
it's going to be a banger.
I can't see it.
It's going to be like my FIFA 23 game last night, 9-8.
Nice.
What are you playing?
If you wanted some really good odds, just from a betting perspective, if you had to take money line, Nottingham Forest plus 420 against a struggling Wolves team, honestly screams pretty good value to me. But I'll go draw. I won't be stupid. Tottenham hosting Everton. I really can't see anything other than a Tottenham win, but it would be so classic of Tottenham to not win in the situation.
I could see a Tottenham and Everton draw here. Spurs have been struggling to break down tougher defenses as of late. Everton have a very staunch defense right now. And unless Kulusevski's playing, I don't really have the most confidence in a front three of Richarlison, Kane, and Son, which is kind of weird to say because they just haven't seemed to have been like connecting as much as you'd like. So I think a draw is pretty likely here.
Yeah, Richarlison coming back to his own club. I'm with Mike on this one. I can see a draw in this.
I'll take Tottenham win. Primetime game of Saturday, Aston Villa are hosting Chelsea. Chelsea minus 130 to take the win. Villa plus 370 at home.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting this match, especially to see how Chelsea line up, given the injury to Reece James is probably going to impact that. But Chelsea are looking like the team that Todd Bowley wanted them to be when he went out and laid all that cash out for those guys. And right now, the last 4 matches since Potter's been in charge, I guess, last 4, has been all wins at like 11-4 and like 2 against. So they're looking extremely fluid right now. And Villa is just struggling too much to see any other outcome but a Chelsea win.
Yeah, it's Chelsea's to lose.
100%. Man U hosting Newcastle. Man U are the actually relatively, I don't want to say heavy favorites, but Newcastle's plus 260 to win this one, even though they are away from home. That just seems like
Look, any team that is able to get a draw or pick up points against Manchester City, in my book, has a fighting chance against any other team. So I'm
kind of a little confused by those odds.
With that said, and the way Newcastle have been playing, not to say Man U haven't, I honestly think this is an upset game here.
I was gonna say this is my upset pick of the week.
I think it's an upset game, even though I don't know.
Do you think it's much of an upset though?
Man U has been going down often. I mean, they went down today in the Champions League too, really early.
Champions League,
Europa League, wherever last game that they played in the Europa League, they went down early. I think United, even though they're sitting pretty high on the table and they're playing some pretty good football, I think Newcastle are just going to be so much to handle, and especially with St. Maximin. I think this is it. I think this is the upset, and I don't even know if you can consider it an upset considering how well Newcastle have been playing this year.
We can't all go upset.
Absolutely, we can.
all right, fine. I am taking this in a bet, though. I'm not taking Newcastle straight up. I am taking the over 3.5, which is 1 goal ahead of. It's like an alternate line.
I like that.
I think this is absolute goal-palooza.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a 0-0 draw now, but, like, regardless, like, it should be 3-1, 2-2, 3-3, something up, like 4-2. It's going to be, I think it's going to be something absurd, but
yeah,
we'll see. Leeds hosting Arsenal. Arsenal minus 185 on the road. I still like those odds, to be honest with you. Leeds have not been looking good.
No, I think this is an Arsenal win through and through. I think they just got too much quality and talent for Leeds right now.
Yep, I would say so.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. And then second to last match, we got Southampton versus West Ham. Wrexham.
Drexler.
It's getting late, boys.
Yeah, barring a James Ward-Prowse masterclass, I could see West Ham picking this up, but I actually think this is going to end up a 1-1 match, or maybe a 2-2. St. Mary's is a tough venue to go to.
It is, and JWP he's a stud. Romeo Lavia, the kid they signed from City, that kid's a stud also. But I just feel like the way Southampton have been playing as of late, if I'm not mistaken, has Hasenhüttl, he's on that hot seat if I haven't heard correctly, or has he lost his job? Do you know?
He still has his job. I don't know. I haven't heard too much about a possible sacking.
But
But I mean, they're just sniffing outside the relegation zone, so it's possible.
I mean, I feel like this is a West Ham win game. I think they overpower them here. So you start to see that climb happen with them starting here.
Yeah, I mean, Southampton's last win was against Chelsea back in August, if I'm not mistaken. So by that means, in gambler's logic, they're due, boys.
Chelsea they're the new Robin Hood. Chelsea, I swear to God.
Yeah, losses to Southampton, Leeds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me Southampton plus 200 at home. A get right game for them. They really needed, desperate for the points. West Ham coming off a big win. I don't know. Just feels right.
Yeah.
No other scientific fact, stats, or anything to back that one.
Just a gut check.
It's just there, just sitting there. Last game of the weekend, obviously the biggest one, prime time. Liverpool hosting Man City. It is do or die for Liverpool. Do they have a chance?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they don't have a chance. Liverpool versus City always brings out unbelievable matches. 2-2 draws, 3-2 victories for one side or another. It's always a very, very good game. And I don't think Liverpool are going to be able to do it, but I do think this will end in a draw. I think going to Anfield is going to be tough. It'll be interesting to see how Van Dijk handles Erling Haaland, though. That's the matchup I most want to see, because up until now, he hasn't come up against a center back in the Premier League of the caliber of Van Dijk. So it's going to be really, really cool to watch, but I think it's going to end up being still a 2-2 match. Salah's on fire lately. Diaz won't be in, but Firmino has been playing out of his skull as well.
You think Van Dijk has the pace to keep up with Haaland?
No.
I think he'll be paired with possibly either probably Joe Gomez, not Joe Gomez. Well, Konate still available? Because that's who I'd like to see in that pairing. I think he's the only one that might have enough pace for him.
I don't know, man. Gomez got like an 81 pace on FIFA.
I don't know.
That dude plays right back.
I think this is one of those games where, like, even though Liverpool are playing at Anfield, I just can't see Man City walking out of here without 3 points. They just look like a team possessed, honestly, barring that Champions League game over the week. I think they're just going to ragdoll the Liverpool team, honestly.
Yeah, I think they're definitely
they're going to overrun them in the midfield. It's completely overrun.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No Trent. They have a chance in defense now.
It's a tough one for me. I'm kind of leading. I can't talk right now. Kind of leaning with Vito on the draw. It just seems like anytime these guys play, it's the highlights are there. The big players come. The big names show up every single time. I'm gonna go draw here too.
What was the last couple results between these guys?
Give me 1 second. I will pull them up for you.
Because if memory serves, it's been very tight. Outside of when they met in the Champions League and Liverpool just absolutely laid a brutal beating on them.
So the last two were not in the league. Community Shield, obviously. We just had Liverpool 3-1 winners. FA Cup 3-2 Liverpool. Before that, 2-2 draws in a row in the league, and then Man City back in February 21, 4-1 winners.
Yeah, so it's been this matchup produces goals.
The over 3.5.
Oh, easily, not even close. Haaland's going to score 3 himself. So,
jeez, should have had that in there. The parlay's in though, boys. We have Brighton money line, Crystal Palace money line, Chelsea money line, Arsenal money line, and then the over 3.5 in the Man U Newcastle game. $10 to win 548.
I like it.
$10.
Thanks for including us.
Who takes it down? Who takes down the parlay?
Let's hope.
Any of the final thoughts here?
Nah, man, nothing for me.
Michael?
No, sir.
Alrighty. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. Like, comment, hit the bell, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you find your podcast. Also follow us on Twitter at the SL Screamers _pod. for daily tweets about the show, world football, the United States men's national team, and the Premier League. I'm your host, Steve, with Mike and Vito signing off.